Right now, misinformation spreads faster than facts, especially on the most sensitive global stories. NVP uses uncensored AI analysis to verify the most controversial topics and separate signal from propaganda in real time. Instead of guessing who to trust, you can see structured verification and analysis behind every major issue. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream, and thank you so much for tuning in to another show. Iran continued with 3 additional waves against the Zionist entity and U.S. assets in the region, with multiple attacks with heavy missiles that reportedly targeted bunkers inside of Israel, where some of the leading figures hide in the country. Now, Israel traditionally does not admit that anyone gets targeted. However, what's for sure is that the Iranian side is continuing with attacks both on the United States and against Israel in everywhere they can, and again targeting them with very heavy missiles, the Khurram Shahar, the Fattah, Qadr, alongside other missiles too. In the meantime, the Iranians also went out to the streets today in their millions to celebrate the Quds Day, Jerusalem Day. And we saw multiple leaders out in the streets, including the Iranian president and Ali Larijani, the foreign minister, several leaders in Iran that are wanted, actually. The United States recently released a bounty. They want to offer 10 million US dollars to anyone who gets information about some figures in Iran that they want to target. Yet the Iranian people are coming out in defiance of all of this in the streets of Iran, and in effect challenging the United States and Israel, regardless of the threats that are coming against the Iranian people. And some people have been martyred as well. That's one of the images of the Iranian foreign minister. And the people were also challenging the United States and Israel, with the United States striking simultaneously. They're striking marches of the Iranian people. See, we thought the United States was telling us that they're there to support the Iranian people. How comes they're hitting these protests when the Iranian people go out in the streets? And today one woman was killed, actually. She was martyred in these attacks. And several of the protesters bravely stood up, carrying the flag that she held with her blood. And they continued to march, despite the strikes coming from Israel and the United States. They think they can scare and frighten the Iranian people, but the Iranian people are constantly showing more resilience, and despite the wounds, despite the injuries, they continue to protest, although the United States and Israel, they don't like seeing these sights. They don't like to see people wounded, and then they continue to protest against Israel and the United States, with the Iranian flags, with the Palestinian flags too, continuing despite all of this. Several leaders were there too, including none other than the President of Iran was out in the streets. Again, although the United States said that they are going to be targeting all of the heads, and we'll get to that in a second, offering 10 million to target more people, thinking that this will get them any results. Like Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday, he was frantically speaking in his speech, frantic speech he had, threatening again today the leaders of the Lebanese resistance and the leaders of Iran. You know, we're going to kill them again, we're going to target them, we're going to do this and that. And this was actually the moment when the explosion happened, when the United States tried to target, or actually targeted, bombed the protests in Iran. There's no way you can defeat people with that level of bravery and faith and resilience. I'm not sure why they're even trying, to be honest with you. And I mean, the protests were huge in multiple places of Iran today. Going out, people. So all of them were out, all of them were chanting against the United States in full defiance. There was none other than Ali Rijani as well, one of the most powerful figures in Iran nowadays. He was out too. Most of the leaders were out in the streets in Iran. And again, the United States put 10 million on his head, right? Saying, oh yeah, 10 million, and for anyone who gives information about it. Haven't you learned the lesson that if you target any of these people, that's not really going to do anything apart from increase their resilience and power and determination to continue and to fight Israel and the United States? They're already continuing anyway. They're targeting the bases. We're going to talk about the waves in a second, what they targeted today. And they're all casually in the streets of Iran all across. Okay. Messages of defiance coming from Iran, messages of resistance, messages of power. It wasn't only the political figures too, but also some of the military figures, some of the security figures out in the streets. You know, again, Israel and the United States, they brag about targeting some of these figures in Iran. And that shows you how much these people are totally fearless compared to, of course, the Israelis, when they literally run to their bunkers and shelters whenever there's a siren going on. The Iranian people remain in the streets, resilient, steadfast, and continue to resist. Now, what does that tell us about this campaign coming from the United States and Israel? Netanyahu's frustration, Netanyahu's really frustrated, and Donald Trump is now resorting to interviews with Jake Paul, right? You see, when the campaign,
to like everyone else,
when the campaign isn't working really well, what do? You sit down with someone like Jake Paul. You sit down with someone like Jake Paul who can actually tell you everything as it is. Tell you, come on, you're liberating Iranian women now, and you're doing this and that, and how people don't understand. Some people don't understand. I mean, that's what Trump needed, didn't he? He needed Jake Paul to have an interview with him to show the whole world that, well, come on, I have Jake Paul with me. I mean, if you're not going to be with me when Jake Paul is with me, then who are you going to be with? Right? Moral, political, common sense bankruptcies this man is going through. He has nothing left but to go to Jake Paul and speak with him. And, Jake Paul sitting there casually telling him that, you're liberating Iranian women. How comes people don't agree, with what you're doing? I'm not sure if Jake Paul knows about the Minab massacre where, hundreds of schoolgirls were killed. Or maybe that's also part of liberation, right? American version of liberation, isn't it? American Israeli versions of liberation. What do? We kill your women. Okay. Iran published multiple videos of their recent attacks. One of them was the 44th wave. They published details about these waves. One of them was the 45th and the 46th. This was the 45th wave coming from Iran. And that wave was a very interesting one because Iran declared a couple of things with this wave. They said that they targeted 4 American Zionist enemy bases overnight with a large barrage of missiles and drones. The RGC said that the strikes destroyed targets in the northern occupied territories, Kiryat Shmone, Hadera, and Haifa, as well as the U.S. Fifth Fleet and other U.S. military assets in the region. And there were other videos as well of the Fifth Fleet going up in flames again. Again, Iran, the Fifth Fleet HQ is probably one of the most strategic, if not the most strategic HQ altogether in West Asia, not only because of the equipment that's there, but because of the importance of all of the monitoring systems, the radars, the satellites, the equipment, the munition, strategic information. And Iran gradually destroyed every single bit of that fleet, but clearly there's still some more to destroy, hence why they're continuing to target the Fifth Fleet, which indicates total convenience here coming from Iran, lack of deterrence at all. There is lack of air defense capabilities coming here clearly from the United States of America. But more importantly, they said that they launched this at the eve of the Quds Day, and it was in memory of resistance leaders killed in recent years, including Qasim Soleimani, Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, Hassan Nasrallah, Hashim Safi al-Din, Ismail Haniya, and Yahya Sinwar. That was dedicated to them. And they said, we will witness a different international Quds Day, adding that the liberation of Quds or Jerusalem is near. The attack used, of course, large numbers of precision-guided and super heavy missiles. Khurram Shahar, Khaybar Shakan, Fattah, Imad, and Qadr, alongside precision drone strikes. Now, when I say super heavy missiles, because Iran, they said just several days back, and there was another interesting statement that came from the head of the Iranian parliament, Mohammad Baqir Qalibaf, today in relation to the next phase, which I'm going to share with you in a second and tell you exactly what that means. Iran said that they're going to begin targeting Israel with missiles weighing no less than 1 ton, with no less than a 1-ton warhead. And some of the missiles that they launched in the 44th wave and the following waves too had warheads with 2 tons. That is a huge destruction capacity coming from Iran. And these are the missiles that they're targeting the Israeli bunkers with. And we already know that when an Iranian missile lands, not the multi-warhead, missiles with the whole thing, they go through buildings and they go through the bunkers, and that's it, it's done. I mean, it's not safe even in the bunker. It's probably safer for someone to be somewhere out in the street rather than the bunker. Because once that's attacked, that's it. And Israel already claimed that multiple Zionists were stuck in bunkers following these attacks coming from Iran. There were, of course, multiple statements coming from Israel too in relation to that wave. One of them was very interesting. 3 times they got attacked within 1 hour. So Iran had 3 waves of missile attacks, of these heavy missile attacks, in under 1 hour only against Israel. And they didn't say this time how long it's going to last. previously they said, it's going to take us 5 hours or 4 hours or what have you. So now they're doing this, and they're doing it within an hour. So what do we understand if Iran is capable to conduct these attacks in 1 hour with all of these very heavy missiles against Israel? Well, that means that first and foremost, the United States, it doesn't have the capacity to take down any of Iran's strategic missiles. All of that is a farce. All of that is a big lie. The fact that they're saying that Iran's capabilities have been destroyed and Iran is no longer capable to launch missiles, I mean, it's baffling that some people even get that. But again, mainstream media is working overtime to mislead people and, of course, ignore other things, only portray it from what the Epstein regime and the occupation state say. But the fact of the matter is we're having increasing numbers of missiles coming from Iran against Israel. And they targeted these locations and the Fifth Fleet with a multitude of missiles. And like I said, they dedicated it to the resistance leaders. Israel said there were dozens of people who were wounded. They're covering up the number of killed people as well. But what's for sure is that the missiles are only increasing in weight, in intensity of attacks, and in the quality targets. And there's a lot of destruction and damage happening as well following these attacks. Despite the suppression, some information is coming out. They're launching the 45th wave of True Promise 4 as well, with heavy missiles again. And also that also mentioned the KC-135. The KC-135, there was another confirmation from Iran that was the Iraqi resistance that took it down. So we have responsibility coming from the Iranian side, because the Iraqi resistance, they're armed and supported by the IRGC. And some of these attacks in the 45th wave also were combined with none other than the Lebanese resistance. The Lebanese resistance said that they targeted multiple locations that we will talk about as well shortly, in addition to all of the attacks that came from Iran against Israel. And in the 46th wave, they again used multiple heavy missiles, the super heavy missiles, Khorramshahr, Khaybar, Shikan, Imad, and Qadr. And they targeted, again, multiple locations across occupied Palestine. That did not mention attacks on the U.S. assets. However, there were other attacks on U.S. assets that could have been not necessarily with this wave. And this was the video of the recent 46th wave.
Yo, Ali!
So Iran, they're conveniently targeting Israel with its super heavy missiles. No interception, no nothing. They're cutting through the so-called multi-layered air defense systems like a Chinese katana cuts through melted butter. No resistance whatsoever. These systems have become completely dysfunctional. Iran destroyed all of the American THAAD systems in the region. They're taking some from all across the world, South Korea, what have you, trying to save Israel with them. All of that isn't helping. So if that's what they're doing now, what are they going to do next? All right. What they're going to do next is going to be very, very interesting, because there was a recent statement coming from the head of the Iranian parliament who said the following. Since the mourning and ingratitude of the National Epic of Quds Day and uprising on par with the 1979 revolution through the valiant struggles of Iran's devoted soldiers and the proud nation's resilient fighters, a new chapter has been written in the system of war management, the effects of which will soon become apparent. A new chapter has been written in the system of war management, and the effects of which will soon become apparent. What is Iran going to do if they're going through a new chapter now? I mean, the chapters that we're witnessing now are very entertaining. I mean, they're very intense and very full on. Iran is not leaving anything, really. What could they do that would escalate things further? On the ground, really and truly, and by the way, if I haven't shared the 45th wave, these were some of the attacks, some of the drone attacks of the 45th wave from Iran. If they're doing all of that now, and the United States is unable to take any sort of measures against these missiles, if Israel is defenseless almost entirely, I mean, the only thing that the Iron Dome is remotely intercepting some of is the very old Hezbollah missiles that they use only for the air defense systems, by the way, to activate it. So they can later on launch missiles and then no interception whatsoever. Very cheap, very old missiles, very light. So now, in effect, as the more time goes by, the more Iran has the upper hand. So I told you in the previous video about the fact that Iran is enjoying economically. Russia as well is benefiting from this. Iran is releasing and exporting more oil barrels since the war began. More countries are now trying to have deals with Iran to bypass the sanctions and based on the situation they're doing in the Hormuz Strait. Trump doesn't have an answer whatsoever. The United States tried to force, in a very risky manner, by the way, but then again, you're talking about elitists here who don't care about the lives of people. Why should they care? They tried to send some people in several oil tankers in the past 48 hours to go through. 6 of them were targeted. One of them was literally in flames. And Iran is making money. So the Hormuz Strait and that crisis, that's not with Iran. That's with the other countries that are tied with the United States and Israel. Anyone who has links with them. To be fair, I mean, they had a chance to cut it once and for all, once it was evident to the whole world, without shadow of a doubt, that these are psychopathic genocidal maniacs who killed children with the genocide in Gaza. But they chose to turn a blind eye, give Israel excuses, deny a genocide being live streamed in broad daylight by the people themselves. And now they're paying some of the price. Not all of it. Some of it. Economically. And they have the audacity to talk about Iran. They have the audacity to say, oh, Iran is attacking these places and Iran is attacking those places. But what is Iran going to do with the next attacks then? Okay, well, the next attacks are going to be very interesting. If the United States systems are not working very well, or non-existent to be more accurate, in the Gulf, if Israel's air defense systems are dysfunctional now, then the following attacks are going to be much easier for Iran to conduct successfully and have more impact. They'll be much more successful, even in the previous ones. We already see success because there's no interception, but imagine like 1 week from now, it's only been 14 days. 14 days isn't a big number in terms of war. But the United States and Israel did not calculate this through. Bloodthirsty psychopaths who wanted to capitalize on the fact that they have a stupid, blackmailed American president willing to kill Americans for Israel. And they're capitalizing on it to the highest level as much as possible. And because they know that is probably the only chance that they're ever going to get, by the way, because trust me that the lesson has been learned already. There's already talk now in the United States that we underestimated. We didn't think that the response is going to be that big. We weren't expecting that much retaliation coming from Iran. We didn't know, we didn't think, we didn't this, we didn't that. So all of that, what does it do? That is making them more confused. They don't know what's coming next. Iran is dictating the pace. The tempo is run by Iran. But Israel, they want to escalate this even further. What they're trying to say, including, by the way, some senior figures in the Epstein regime, including Pete Hegseth, oh, the Arabs are now on our side. As in, they're going to participate with them. Everyone understands the game. Whether some of the Arab governments or any other Muslim country, some of them who had no shame and started to condemn Iran for attacking American assets, that's a separate story than them actually participating. Because simultaneously with these statements that are coming, like as in official statements, there are talks from multiple Arab states that, well, this relationship needs to be over. Trump didn't consult us. He didn't ask anything. He didn't even warn us. And he went on to this attack, and we were dragged into the middle of this, and we didn't really want to take any part of it. The countries that were just focusing on, money and expats and more investments and what have you. Now, what are you going to do now? You're no longer a safe haven. People are departing. Some people are talking about the largest financial transfers in history happening from Gulf countries, primarily the UAE, to other countries because of this whole situation. And of course, the Turkish side understands that very well. Again, although from some of the official statements that came from some of the Turkish officials, they were also shameful, putting Iran in the aggressive position. If any of you were subject to an attack, at the scale of Iran and what the United States and Israel, the world's supposedly biggest superpower and the most genocidal, bloodthirsty maniac, attacking you, killing your supreme leader, what would you do? Would you start condemning the oppressed? What kind of a position is that? But despite all of that, they understand that they mustn't be dragged into a conflict with Iran. And also, regardless of the false flags, so there are multiple false flags, there are attempts, and there were warnings being issued, right? But they still understand that that's the ultimate aim here, to drag them all. So in effect, use the forces in the region against each other so that they can eat each other. And then all of a sudden, Israel has the greater Israel within no time. That is the ideal situation. So far, what it's looking like is that none of them are that stupid. No one, even in the establishment, is that stupid to that level where they would even think of having any sort of retaliatory measures against Iran, because Iran told them very clearly, we're not targeting you, we are targeting American assets and American personnel. And the United States is putting bounties on their heads. The resistance is putting bounties on the American heads, by the way. The Iraqi resistance is offering money as well to anyone. Also, reports coming from Iran, anyone, everyone in the Gulf states and the Arab states, if you are next to any American official, anyone tied with this operation, you're putting yourself at risk. You need to report them to us. So in effect, expanding their intelligence gathering about wherever each of these people go to, which hotel they go to, which room, anywhere they are in the region, to get reports so that Iran can target them. Direct targeting, as in they'll send a drone to their window. And we saw that already. I mean, it's happening regularly. Iran is sending multiple drones to multiple countries in the region where some of the Epstein regime officers are hiding, and they're hitting them really hard. So in essence now, Donald Trump wants an exit. Likewise, well, Netanyahu is hoping for something greater, and he was clearly frustrated yesterday with his speech, very anxious. Even when he said that, eventually it's going to have to be the Iranian people, you're going to have to take it in your own hands eventually. You're going to have to do it. It's because he has nothing left. His rats in Iran were eliminated by the IRGC and the Basij. They're trying to target kind of these checkpoints that some of the Iranian forces have, thinking that would also deter them. The only thing that it's creating is more harmony, more resilience from the Iranian people, and more resistance. And they're mocking, to be honest with you. They're mocking it. Like the Secretary General of Hezbollah today, he said that Netanyahu, your threat to assassinate me is tasteless and worthless. It is you who should fear for yourself. I mean, it's become really boring now. The fact that they are trying to kind of always, warn them, and we're going to kill you, and we're going to kill them. What did it do? This was some of the damage that happened following some of the Iranian missiles. We're not getting all of the videos. Some of the videos are publishing some of the image that is coming from the occupied territories in relation to these attacks, the several waves that took place in the past 24 hours. From the Palestinian side, Abu Ubaidah, the spokesperson of Al-Qassam Brigade, he also released a statement praising the missile strikes carried out by the IRGC against Israel and describing them as part of the ongoing confrontation with the Zionist enemy. He said that the attacks brought joy to the hearts of our oppressed people and praised the large demonstrations in Iran on Quds Day in support of Palestine despite the ongoing war. Abu Ubaidah added that the mass mobilization of Iranians and their leadership's presence among the crowds reflected what he described as Iran's continued commitment to supporting Palestine. He also said the World Quds Day is an opportunity to unite the Muslim world around the cause of Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa, urging focus on what he described as the central struggle against the Israeli occupation. And of course, that was very evident in the protests that took place in Iran. And many people were, of course, raising the Palestinian flags. And, you know, they're really well known. I mean, at the end of the day, you're talking about all of that sacrifice. A lot of it is due to Palestine. You know, some of the people who have the audacity to talk about Iran, for whatever reason, these people are sacrificing their lives. What are you doing? You know, what are your leaders doing? What are your establishments doing? A very big part of it is their fierce resistance against Israel. And the fact that the late Supreme Leader said that we will not even recognize this entity for 1 hour. He said that when he met the late spiritual leader of Hamas about 30 years ago. He said, we will not recognize them for 1 hour. That's why they're against them. And who else is doing this? Who else is landing missiles on Israel in that manner? This was some of the damage that came following the Iranian missile attacks earlier on against Israel. So the Iranian side is clearly not backing down here and is putting the American establishment in a very difficult situation. But it's not only Iran. It's, of course, the resistance fronts. And when we talk about the resistance fronts, it's only expanding, taking down an American a fuel tanker, targeting strategic assets. And now the American Epstein coalition is targeting Iraqi resistance hubs inside of Iraq. But the party that has been seriously active alongside Iran this time is Hezbollah, with their Operation Al-Asf al-Ma'kul, they called it. And that was one of their recent videos that they published. So that was the Lebanese resistance. And today, the spokesperson of the Khatam al-Anbiya HQ in Iran said that the recent wave targeted the Muwaffaq Salti base in Jordan, alongside American bases in Al-Manama, in Bahrain, and Erbil, in the Iraqi Kurdistan. They also carried out the strikes with heavy missiles and multi-warhead missiles, two including one of them having more a 2-ton warhead. So what is that going to do with Iran's nuclear program? You see all of this talk about Iran's nukes and Iran's nuclear program, and we're targeting them because they can't have nuclear weapons. The typical hypocritical double standard type of argument of countries who have used, I mean, the United States is the only country that used nuclear bombs against innocent people. In Japan, thousands of nuclear warheads. And these arrogant countries that have nuclear weapons, who think that they are entitled to tell other countries what kind of weapons they can or cannot have, and simultaneously ignore the fact that there is a country that commits genocide and has a war criminal leading it, called Netanyahu, to this day, by the way, who's still recognized by the West in general, is recognized as legit by most Western establishments, Netanyahu. They're having this hypocritical approach against Iran. Now, the man who banned the nuclear bomb is gone. He was martyred. They killed him. He stopped Iran from having a nuclear bomb for a very long time. As a matter of fact, the American intelligence told Donald Trump multiple times that this religious decree, this fatwa of the supreme leader of Iran, is still intact, and we see no indication of having anything changing. Although, by the way, he was under pressure. Different voices close to him who were trying to convince him to just, no, we need to have nuclear weapons for deterrence, at least. We understand all of the concept, but hey, we don't live in an ideal world at the end of the day. And other countries have nuclear bombs, and they're threatening us with nuclear bombs. And the thing that we spoke about initially is the fact that once he was assassinated, the next supreme leader, now his son, might come up with a different approach. He might actually say, well, let's have nuclear bombs. They already have enriched uranium, that is enough for, well, if they continue down the process, 20 to 30 bombs. Maybe not all of them up to 92% enrichment, which usually people say qualifies to a nuclear bomb, although the IAEA's definition, I believe, considers anything over 20% enrichment to be a nuclear bomb. So in effect, Iran could declare that it has nuclear weapons tomorrow if it wishes. One thing grabbed my attention slightly, and that was a post coming from the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who said that factual knowledge matters. Case 1, Iran's proposal to ensure no nuclear weapons was dismissed because US counterparts did not grasp the technical details. 2, Americans won't make money from surging oil prices and tariffs. They enrich corporations and crush households. Second one, of course, I mean, it's the elitists who make the money at the end of the day. But the first one is a dig against Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, basically telling them you're both imbeciles. You're two idiots who don't understand anything, coming here at the request of Netanyahu, who's controlling Trump. They have nothing to do with nukes. They don't know anything about it, and they're coming to negotiate a deal. And that's why he's saying that they didn't grasp it. Two idiots. They have no clue. Iran even told them about the level of enriched uranium and what have you. They didn't get anything. But why is he mentioning it now? And why did he highlight no nuclear weapons was dismissed? Why did they dismiss that? That could also be a slow hint coming from the Iranian side to prepare people for a nuclear bomb at some point. Because like everyone is saying that they need to have a nuclear bomb now for deterrence. Because if they were a nuclear bomb, then this wouldn't have probably happened. Probably not at this scale, right? Netanyahu is, of course, trying now to package this war of aggression and terrorism against Iran to the Israeli public as very successful, by the way. Trump said we finished all of our targets. Netanyahu yesterday said that we took their capabilities down so much that they hardly have anything now. And people are mocking him in Israel. In Israel, people are posting videos of Netanyahu last year and the defense minister when they said that the Lebanese resistance is completely done. We took them back dozens of years, only for them to be surprised now with the capabilities, and likewise with Iran. But with Iran, Netanyahu is saying that we took them back now and we heavily attacked their capabilities. We still haven't taken down the regime, but it's up to the Iranian people. You know, you need to go to the streets to try and package to the Israelis an exit. Assuming that he would get it, by the way, because like we said, Iran is dictating the tempo. It's outside of American-Israeli hands now. They began this, they will not end this. Iran will end it whenever it wants. And they said there's a course of punishment. Some of it has taken place. There's more to come. Therefore, they're going to continue with that. Okay. If Iran declares that it has nukes following this, imagine the huge failure of the United States and Israel. And by the way, during all of the attacks that they conducted in this aggression against Iran, they weren't declaring that they were targeting nuclear facilities, by the way. Most of the places they were targeting were like, the figures, the supreme leader. They thought that, okay, if we chop the head off, then that's it. But that didn't really work from their perspective. And Iran is likely to be a nuclear power after this, assuming, of course, there's going to be any sort of deal anytime soon, although it's increasingly becoming unlikely, especially with the recent statement that came from the Iranian Speaker of the Parliament, who said that now we entered a new wave of attacks. Now, these were the main things that I want to share with you. I'll open the space up for some community participation. If any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them with the time that we have left. And if you wouldn't mind highlighting them with like a red button or the alarm so we can get to them quickly. And thanks again, everyone. Thank you for everyone who sent supers. Much appreciated. And welcome to another live stream. Mubtahu 24, was the supreme leader attacked in the hit today? No, there were no reports of him being attacked, but the American side is threatening to target them again, likewise with Netanyahu. Assuming that would change anything, by the way, if any of them have an ounce of brain, they realize that that's not going to make any difference. But they're bloodthirsty vampires, maniacs, these people are. And they think that we can do it again. Do you know what I mean? And maybe something will happen. P. Walker, thank you. You said, given the USA failed to defend the GCC countries, do you think they're more likely to pursue nukes regardless of what Iran does? That is a very interesting question. That would absolutely increase the race for nuclear bombs now across the whole Gulf. Everyone would want a nuclear weapon now. That was evident, firstly, after Israel attacked Qatar with complete complicity from the United States, and there was no defense there. And after that, Saudi Arabia had a defense pact with Pakistan, which is a nuclear country. That on its own started to signal the beginning of a new chapter in the region, which is the American umbrella doesn't work anymore, and we need to find different solutions. That's why now more countries are talking about coalitions. Turkey was calling for a Middle East defense pact. The United States influence is fading away. And what some of them are realizing is that we shouldn't be relying on an external force to support us or protect us. And paying for protection doesn't work, because even if you pay for protection, look at what happened now. The United States will always prefer Israel to any of the Arab countries. That's what they didn't get, some of these Arab countries, that they look down at them at the end of the day. They view them as below them. There's a lot of arrogance there and a supremacist approach. But some of them thought that, the petrodollar, and by the way, that could be the end of the petrodollar as well, too. That's a very big thing. The petrodollar, and we invest in American stocks, we boost up the stock levels and what have you. And all well, we have the best American air defense systems. Nothing's going to happen. We didn't attack Iran, So I think absolutely it could provide it. And Iran is very likely to be the first one. But then you would potentially see some other countries owning nuclear bombs. Listen, there were some reports that some of them already bought nuclear bombs back in the early 90s after the collapse of the Soviet Union in the black market, because after the collapse of the Soviet Union, many in the Soviet army, they wanted to make money. There was a market, and there were people fighting over who has it and who doesn't. And like in South Africa, police used to find people chopped up in car trunks because of certain deals. So, but that's secretly. Now it could actually become a case where, oh no, it's actually, no, we're going to declare that we have them for deterrence. And thank you for that. That was from P. Walker. RB, thank you. FU, thank you so much as well. Are UK bases being used to bomb Iran? Absolutely. The United Kingdom is fully complicit in genocide. I mean, anyone in the UK, whether it's the government, anyone participating, they have blood on their hands. Firstly, with the genocide in Gaza, constant support for Israel, arming Israel. The United States just deployed a B-1 bomber from a UK base. And they were recorded as in putting the bombs inside the B-1 bombers. And the United Kingdom is fully participating, but not declaring that it's participating in the attack. However, that doesn't mean that they are not facilitating. At the end of the day, the United Kingdom is a poodle state for the United States. Any country that has American assets and bases is subject to the American decision-making of the administration, of course. Because Trump wasn't joking when he told the Spanish prime minister that even if you don't want us to use the American bases, if we want, we'll just go there and use them. He wasn't joking. That's the approach of the American government, whether it's with the United Kingdom or any other country too. And Europe was happy with the fact that they are subject to the United States at the end of the day following World War II. And a lot of these moves coming, a lot of the preparation that happened took place before as well, with the deployment coming from Europe at the end of the day, you know, with all of the deployment that came from bases in Ramstein, for example, in Germany, bases in the UK. So they're fully on it at the end of the day. They're participating. Thank you so much, F and Anne, for your super. Thanks, much appreciated. Mahmoud Netanyahu is dead. No, Netanyahu doesn't look like he's dead. And some of the people who spoke about this AI video, by the way, with him with 6 fingers, that's a fake video. I watched the whole video, and throughout the entirety of the video, he looked like he had a background, but he did that before. He'll have like a different background, but with the fingers, that's not accurate. I mean, I watched the full video that was published on the Israeli Prime Minister's channel, and that wasn't true. That doesn't mean that other leaders might have been, you know, killed or whatever, because Israel doesn't really confirm. Hezbollah most likely killed the head of the 8,200 unit back in 2024, and Israel didn't confirm, but he wasn't seen after that too. But Netanyahu, that doesn't look like, you know, he was killed or anything. Again, others might be. Netanyahu could be killed. Listen, Netanyahu is a dead man walking at the end of the day. Trust me, Israelis want him dead. I mean, the Israelis tried to kill Netanyahu. You don't have to go to Iran even. Many people in Israel want him dead. So that's why he is literally from one place to another, and he doesn't move without the authority of his security team manager, by the way. They implemented a routine for him after the genocide that he literally doesn't make any move unless there is authorization from the head of his security team. Because Hezbollah targeted his bedroom. Laurie Johnson, Colonel McGregor said that Iranian state TV announced Iran now has a nuke. Has that been announced? I actually haven't seen such an announcement from Iranian television. If that was the case, you know, I think we would all know about it, and it would be declared on a very large scale, of course. But I personally haven't heard anything as such. But again, I would not be surprised if they would at one point declare that they have nuclear bombs. Terminator, a mushroom cloud was seen in Iran the other day. Professor Marandi said Iran might be testing nukes. And there were also earthquakes reported, about 4.5 on a Richter scale. That could be linked, maybe. And again, you know, they would be fully entitled to have a nuclear bomb. They probably should have had a nuclear bomb, assuming they don't, you know, they might have one in secret, again, undeclared. But I would not be surprised. Gabrielle, do you think Israel will use their nukes? Perhaps not now, but perhaps they would use the threat of using nukes as leverage with the United States should they want any sort of additional campaigns or a continuation of the war, unless the United States convince them that, look, we're already roasted and you're going to get the hit if we continue, and we're no longer able to defend you because all of our THAAD and radar systems have been destroyed throughout West Asia. So, you know, you be the decision makers. And if Israel decides that they want to go ahead, then the United States will go ahead. Because the shots are not being called by Trump now. Shots are being called by Benjamin Netanyahu. And Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel as a country have been waiting for this moment for the past 40 years, and now they have it. And they know that they might never have it again, so they want to capitalize on it as much as possible. And that's why Americans are going back to the United States in coffins and are being hunted everywhere in the Gulf. Rose, can Iran disable Israel from launching a nuclear payload? Interesting. Perhaps, assuming that they would have the right intel, many countries across the world, especially nuclear countries, already have data and knowledge about where the nukes are, the deployment. Once anything, any movement is detected, like, they will already know. There's this mutual destruction code in Russia where you'll have automatic destruction if they're attacked. And they could, but it depends on how Israel would use it. See, the funny thing is, no one talks about Israel and its nuclear threat. Israel can reach the whole world with nuclear bombs. And it depends on how they would launch it too. But that's when things would completely get out of hand, you know? And you will start seeing participation from bigger countries as well. Because so far, what we're seeing is that Iran is humiliating the Epstein coalition. And they don't need additional support. They haven't even activated all of the resistance fronts. Yemen still, they're not in yet. So that shows you that Iran is doing really well. Unknown human, is there a chance this war takes turn for the worse in coming days, or US-Israel backs down, declaring victory? Well, I think that we already saw attempts to back down. Firstly, from the initial days, when Trump started to have these declarations that there's a new leadership and they want to talk, as in thinking that the law of attraction would work. You know, I'll say something and that will happen. You know, there are Iranian leaders who want to talk, and then the universe will listen to Trump, and then Iranian leaders will talk, not knowing that he pressed the wrong button by assassinating the supreme leader. And they also tried by saying that, oh yeah, you know, it's not going to last long. Or Trump later said that we targeted, you know, but there are no more targets left. We destroyed their navy, we destroyed everything, we destroyed, we killed. Okay, and their attacks are increasing, and your bases are getting hammered and wiped off the map. And Netanyahu is shaking like an electrified rat, you know, he's paranoid. So they're trying, but what's for sure is that it's out of their hands. It's not in their hands anymore. It's in the hands of Iran. Even if they declare victory, Iran wouldn't care. There's a punishment to be implemented. They still haven't implemented all of it. We don't know what the extent is. We really don't. But Iran views this as an attack on its existence. Hence why we see this level of response coming from them. Tam, Mahmoud Netanyahu is reading a book called The Fall of the New Roman Empire. Do you think that he's trying not to take down USA? I think Netanyahu and Israel in general, they have that mentality with the whole world. They view the whole world as goyim who are below them, who are to be used because they are above them. There are enough Zionists in the United States to support that idea. As a matter of fact, many Israeli figures repeated that in recent years as well. And Netanyahu couldn't care less about, the United States being hammered or whatever. Has Netanyahu considered, okay, if you're talking in the form of allies, for example, has Netanyahu considered at one point the interest of the United States in any of this? Has he considered the strategic relationship that the United States has with Gulf states, for example? Has he considered the relationship of the United States with anything, the United States image across the world, its reach, the fact that it's Israel's main supporter, and also what happens to them needs to be, taken into consideration? He hasn't. Therefore, he doesn't care. But his delusional, twisted mind and these false ideas and beliefs that he has makes him think that, we're on the way of actually controlling the whole world. That's how he's behaving. What some people refer as Pax Judaica. Not only the greater Israel, the Israel from east to west, China. They'll talk about China tomorrow. They'll tell you the entity that promises them lands promised them China too, 3,200 years ago. Sam, I have read that the US hit a bank of Iran. Do you know more about this? Yeah, they did. It was either an Israeli or an American strike. They're striking financial institutions in Iran. If Iran do the same, then the economy of the US collapses immediately. I mean, not necessarily, of course, immediately, because it's more complicated than that, but they have capacity to increase their attacks. So what Iran is doing now is an automatic response of a very grave crime and a black line that the United States and Israel crossed, but that's not the whole picture. And they have prepared for this day for a very long time. They are implementing it, and they can do much, much more. And they told the American side, eye for an eye. Eye for an eye means you do this, we will respond in the same manner. Now, how far will the United States go with this approach? And are they in line with Israel with this? I'm not entirely sure. I actually don't think that the United States and Israel are totally in line on everything with attacks, because the United States was dragged into this without really having the consent, or without even consulting security figures, military figures, political figures, economic figures, let alone allies of the United States, not only in the Gulf, by the way, but across the world. I mean, India, Japan, South Korea, we're talking about heavy reliance on the Strait of Hormuz. Do you think that Israel could destroy Al-Aqsa and blame it on Iran? They could, yeah. Did you hear about the US sending 2,600 Marines to Iran? I mean, to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure they're nowhere near Iran. I mean, if any Marines are going to, if you mean by going to the ground in Iran, because the Marines, they are on multiple warships, of course, and there are Marine forces in Gulf states too. Many of them have been targeted. But if you mean like going on a ground invasion or anything in Iran, then that's like suicide. We are waiting, The Iranian foreign minister told them, we are waiting. And Curious Joel, thank you so much for your super, much appreciated. And everyone else for your message as well, for your messages too. Let's take a couple more questions. Gabrielle, do you know how many nuclear bombs Israel have? Well, some reports said that they have about 300. But again, it's a very, shady program, so you will not know the exact extent, They might have secret facilities as well. Gullyberg, Mahmoud, do you believe that theories that nuclear Russian and Chinese submarines are in the Arctic ready to launch nukes in the US in case the US drops nukes on Iran? I mean, with the submarine nuclear case, then there are multiple countries with multiple nukes on various submarines, some of them very difficult to detect due to the measures that they take to remain in stealth mode and be undetected, in certain materials that they put on top of the submarine, and lack of movement and what have you. So the submarines are a very dangerous thing. And many countries have submarines deployed in multiple parts of the world with nukes, apart from the fact that they will have nukes deployed in other places or ready to be launched in any other place. Whether there's going to be like an automatic Chinese or Russian response against a nuclear attack against Iran, I mean, we wouldn't be sure of that, of course. I think the real things, listen, we're talking about what we see, right? And we try and kind of understand everything based on the information available. But what we're dealing with is less than 10%. 90% happens behind closed doors. We don't know about it. We don't hear about it. We don't know the threats. We don't hear the threats. Some people who call themselves allies, we don't really see what actually goes on between them. So I'm sure that these threats would be reserved to private channels, but the relevant people know them very well. In the case of a nuke. Marvin, any Hamas ops to break the Gaza blockade, Iran help? And no, there were no declared Hamas operations in Gaza. I think they are trying as much as possible to get into the second stages. The people of Gaza are suffering immensely. Israel used the focus on Iran to continue its genocidal acts in Gaza. People get killed, the buildings destroyed. They're starving them again in Gaza. And some of the mediators are trying to do some work to get the things back up and running. And no reports of clashes between Israel and the Palestinian resistance in Gaza, but of course in the West Bank as well, there are atrocities on a daily basis. Today, a settler ran over a 5-year-old girl And when the Palestinians called the police told them, no, actually, you did it. That's apartheid Israel for you. But you won't hear that on mainstream media because it's their little genocidal colony there. What are the chances of Netanyahu destroying the mosque to build a temple? Likely. We're talking about delusional psychopaths who believe in a variety of falsehoods. And he would try. I mean, they were preventing people from praying in Al-Aqsa for several days. Maybe he could be doing that. Blame it on Iran. You know, it was an Iranian missile, and now it's time to build the temple and hope that something would happen. And I mean, they have plans for it. They have maps. They have plans. They're constantly trying to change the status quo. Jordan, which is supposed to be, well, having guardianship over Al-Aqsa Mosque, is doing nothing in the face of this. Likewise, the Palestinian Authority of the West Bank, with all of these Israeli moves. Gabriel, what false flag do you suspect will happen next? I think if any false flag happens, it would be a false flag in the United States of America, because Israel doesn't need popular support for its terrorism in Iran. The United States Epstein regime does, because Americans are not agreeing with this aggression against Iran. As a matter of fact, most Americans are siding with Iran, standing with Iran, hoping that Iran would actually finish the United States bases and Israel off, because they're sick of their own government. So the false flag would likely to be in the United States. And we already saw, like, I mean, it's so blatant. Geez. Firstly, you have these reports of drones going missing from some of the bases. Then you have the FBI threatening from Iran attack in California. And then you had this guy who killed a few people. Then they planted an Iranian flag in his shirt. I mean, can it be any more obvious than this, that they're preparing a false flag? So I think it would be in America. So, you know, everyone in America, I think people should be, you know, careful with these things, because they're serious. Listen, Israel and the United States, firstly, you have forces in the United States who are willing to shoot for fun. They don't care. Look at ICE, trained with the IDF, by the IDF. And Israel can carry out operations in the United States, because the United States government is an occupied government. It's a Zionist-owned government. Angel Slayer Mahmoud, what are the chances of Netanyahu destroying the mosque to build their temple? Oh, no, we got to that. Sorry that I repeated it again. Like I said, you know, it's likely that he can do something like that. He's insane. Let's see what else we have here. I'll share this video with you while we're going through some of the questions. Some of the landings are being published now from one of the recent attacks from Iran. A ballistic missile launched toward the south of occupied state landed. Let's have a look at this video.
يا رب والله
So yeah, that was one of the most recent ballistic missiles coming from Iran. There's clearly some more waves going on, by the way, or more attacks, at least. Yvonne, the Americans have had a huge wake-up call. Do you think that finally AIPAC-backed police will not get elected at the midterms? If so, the Israeli influence may come to an end. Yes, and that is a disaster for Israel and the Israeli lobby in the United States of America, because now, and contrary to what used to happen before, we have more candidates now confirming that they're not funded by AIPAC, saying that I'm not going to let a foreign country, influence my decision making. There is the ASAPAC, Michael Rechtenwald, who I spoke with, was running basically an anti-AIPAC movement as well, helping people who oppose AIPAC in the Israeli lobby. So more candidates are being proud and are publishing the fact that they're not funded. So that is actually creating the total opposite of what Israel wants in the United States. And we will inevitably start to see some change. Now, where that gets risky, by the way, and the very dangerous thing is some influential figures who are considered to be either outsiders or critics of the government or what have you, will still try and convince people to support one of the two main parties and try and have a change from within. And these are the most dangerous voices, by the way, because in effect, what they do is that they instill the two-party system and its power, and they continue the influence of Israel because many in these parties would still be bought and purchased and owned by Israel. The real change will be when you start saying that it's neither Republicans nor Democrats. And the alternative would have to prove it's anti-Zionist. So the people have to do their job in terms of thoroughly checking all of these people and never trusting any of these parties. But even if a new party comes, you would need to assess them very well. But in terms of the bigger parties like the Republicans and the Democrats, they're infested. I mean, Zionists to the core. Yeah, some people might be kind of against, but I mean, their numbers are very low. However, there's definitely going to be a change. And that's something that's worrying Israel very heavily, to a level where they said multiple times that it's actually an existential threat. An APAC tracker is a very important monitoring tool for you, of course. Track APAC. They show, which candidates got money from the Israeli lobby, because some of those who even criticize still get money from Israel, but they try and kind of play it both sides. Sean Hurl, Bernie Sanders still won't call it a genocide in Gaza. Yeah, I mean, Bernie Sanders and all of these fake type of between heaven and hell type of position that they're in. You know, what Israel's doing is bad, but, you know, the Palestinian resistance is bad too, you know. Oh, yeah, you know, the Iranians really are under a repressive regime and we're against the Ayatollah regime, but also what Israel and America is doing is bad. It's like, look, dude, shut up, please. And people trying to kind of differentiate. You need to have the same, whether it's Bernie Sanders or anyone else, by the way. Hypocrite, double standards anywhere. Either we have moral consistency or we don't, right? And what do I mean by moral consistency? Either I have morals that I believe in and they get implemented everywhere, or I don't. But don't try and compare even the victims to the culprits and to the aggressors. They remind me of some of these people who were talking about the Palestinian resistance when they resist Israel. It's like they are under occupation. Do you have any clue about international law? Have you read any of the UN resolutions and charters and anything to do with people living under occupation? So if you plan an entity with a bunch of rabid terrorists from anywhere or anywhere across the world and declare a state, does that make it legit? There are so many questions with this, but many people, of course, reveal their true colors, whether it's with Iran or with the Palestinian case. Even now, like with this, like, don't you realize that by even saying one word against the Iranian establishment, you're indirectly justifying the attack against it? And they'll tell you, no, actually, no, what the United States and Israel is doing is wrong. Yeah, but why so? So you're on Jake Paul's side. You might as well join the podcast of Donald Trump and Jake Paul when he was telling him that, oh yeah, we're liberating the Iranian women. Joe Mama Mahmoud, what would be Iran's conditions for a ceasefire? Oh, that is very interesting. Will it include measures to secure Lebanon, else Israel will expand away? Listen, I think that is a very interesting question. And what I can tell you is purely my opinion based on what I see. I think Iran, firstly, to understand what they might ask, we need to understand what is the position that they're in at the moment. Now they have the upper hand. The American bases have been destroyed. American personnel are being hunted down anywhere they go. Israel is being hammered. The United States doesn't have popular support for this campaign. There is no coalition against Iran. Israel is hated by the whole world, even by aliens if they exist anywhere. They hate Israel. And Iran is dictating the tempo with the oil in the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran has a lot of cards in its hands. And the reason that they're rejecting to even talk about a ceasefire means that the price will be substantially heavier than before, in my opinion. Again, that's just my opinion. So it's not just we'll settle for a ceasefire or let's have an agreement where you don't attack us. No. Their demands are going to be from the United States. That's what's going to happen. Now, Iran is going to demand things from the United States. Of course, even in the previous negotiations, it wasn't like a one-sided thing. If they would have a nuclear agreement, there would be unfrozen assets, there would be international trade, there would be lots of things, sanctions, go on, all of that. which happened, of course, in the JCPOA, but then Trump withdrew because of Zionist pressure, or just a request, without any studies, without any research, without nothing. Only thing he has to do is go up and say it was a bad deal, and that's it. And people will believe him. So now Iran is in a stronger position to demand certain things from the United States that not only would result to things being met, whether in Lebanon, but also in Gaza potentially too. And we're already hearing certain things. Again, not all of them are official statements, but for example, no rebuilding of bases. The United States can't come back. It can't have any bases near Iran. We heard things such as commitments of non-aggression in the future, recognition in Iran's legitimate rights. We even heard things that are far beyond that. Like there were some elements saying that the Palestinian resistance needs to prepare itself to take control because we're going on for full liberation. And only time will tell. And from what we're seeing now, Iran has the upper hand. The more time goes by, the more Israel's defenses will be depleted even further. The United States had the biggest attack on its assets in history. In the history of the United States, it has never been attacked the way Iran attacked it. Only one country. And it's because they went and messed with the wrong country. And Grim W, thank you so much for your super, much appreciated, and everyone else sent supers as well. Marvin, Zagreb in UK strong. Any chance that can break? Who is APAC equivalent in the UK? Well, the Israeli lobby in the United Kingdom doesn't operate as blatantly as it does in the United States of America, and it's working in a more discreet way in the form of some of Jewish organizations inside of the United Kingdom, alongside a couple of law firms who work on behalf of Israel, like UK Lawyers for Israel, the Board of Deputies of British Jews. They hide under the Jewish slogan to pretend like they're protecting the Jewish people. But in effect, they are Zionists to the core, people who support genocide and crimes against humanity. And their only purpose is to preserve Israel and demonize any sort of criticism that comes against Israel. However, on the other hand, you have other, for example, Jewish organizations in the UK who oppose Zionism in Israel very strongly. There are strong Jewish voices against the Israeli and Zionist lobby in the UK. There has been a recent call by an Israeli, actually, anti-Zionist Israeli Jewish professor, a group of academics as well, lords in the United Kingdom as well, calling for the United Kingdom to apologize for the 1917 Balfour Declaration. And all of these things are important because the United Kingdom has a historic responsibility. I mean, they started this garbage with the Rothschilds and the establishment of Israel and this Balfour Declaration. And Israel started, in effect, from the UK. And it needs to end in the UK too. And the UK needs to take responsibility and apologize for its actions in first and foremost helping form Israel and then continuously supporting them against the Palestinian people, whether it's militarily, politically, diplomatically, everything. However, the strongest Zionist lobby is in the United States, as in, mind you, the UK, it's exceptionally strong. And again, it comes in different forms. And it comes in forms where it's not very apparent. So you'll have these, for example, racist bigots who will, criticize immigration and everyone and thinking, but when it comes to Israel, they won't say a word. And they'll talk about independence, but they don't mind being pawns for Zionists. They don't dare say a word. And you have the Zionist lobby itself, and you have their mouthpieces too. But the United States is the hub. I mean, you're talking about, firstly, bigger religious support amongst Christian Zionists. And you have the lobby itself and the level of infiltration in the United States. Joe, and No Name, thank you as well for your super, much appreciated. And Joe, thank you so much. As I said, Iran needs sanctions lifted, but Trump and Zionists will not give those a kosher stamp. Iran is getting oil revenue through Strait closure, and China is also getting its oil. Iran is in the driving seat, but Zionists still a threat. That is true. That is accurate. And all it takes for the United States is just to lift the support. If the United States government just says, you know what, let me leave Israel, that's it. Instead, you have people like Lindsey Graham who, if there's a hurricane or what have you, they'll tell you, yeah, it's really bad, but look what's happening in Israel. Dude, there's a hurricane in the United States, people are dying, but look what's happening in Israel. Angel Slayer Mahmoud, did Israel and the US demolish the Twin Towers and blame it on the Middle East as terrorism to invade the Middle East? 100%. I mean, I studied 9/11 intensively. I wrote articles about it, not in English though, very long time ago. And 9/11 was 100% an inside job. You could tell from so many factors, by the way, from the demolition, from the planted devices, the operations that took place before, building number 7 and how it collapsed, these people, the finding of this random passport of a guy who did it, who were these people, how were they operating under the watch of the United States Security Service, what kind of object was it that hit the Pentagon, what kind of planes were used, where did they go exactly. You have architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth who still to this day do a great job in exposing everything. The fact that half of the population of New York at the time didn't really believe the official narrative. The fact that when the people and the victims signed to get compensation, they also signed not to investigate things further. It stinks. And that was the biggest false flag probably in history, definitely in the 21st century. So 100%. And I mean, the notion that you had these groups, by the way, Osama bin Laden denied having any relation, by the way. That might be a surprise to people. Osama bin Laden, I went to the archives at the time. He published 2 statements, one in September and one in November 2001, when he was still in Afghanistan, denying any connection. Now, you may ask later on, well, who was that Osama bin Laden who was talking later on and thinking? And then, well, I mean, you can see now by the level of AI and editing that we have in our hands, then couldn't such technologies have existed before? We know very well that a lot of the technology that we have in our hands today existed a very long time ago. A lot of things. I mean, 9/11 is a very big subject. I mean, it's what's the biggest cover-up in the 21st century. Aisha, thank you. Trump is an idiot, a fool, and a puppet for the other war criminal. The USA has backed the genocide of Palestinian people by Israel. They'll finally learn their lesson from this war on America. 100%. I mean, they are learning. I think the statements that are coming now from the American officials are clearly stating how much they didn't expect this. They're learning a hard lesson. And mind you, this power projection, is just a show to cover up the intense level of frustration and shock, by the way, by the United States. They really didn't expect it. Marvin, Zio lifeboats as the Ukraine, Chile, Argentina, Cyprus thing? Probably. I mean, we already see some movements here and there. Cooking history, Mahmoud, is it true that Mujtaba was injured by a missile strike? So does the United States say, but we have no confirmation of that. There was also a confirmation today that the wife of the previous supreme leader wasn't actually killed in that attack. He could have been wounded. Like Ali Shamkhani, who was reportedly killed this time, survived an assassination attempt in June 2025. So I think some things will be released with time because they wouldn't want to kind of reveal all of the information. Oh, have you seen this response from the Secretary Ali Larijani, by the way? Pete Hegseth said that Iran's leadership is in no better shape, desperate and hiding. They've gone underground, cowering. That's what rats do. We know the new so-called and not so supreme leader is wounded and likely disfigured, right? And then, hi, Mr. Hegseth, Ali Larijani tells him, our leaders have been and still are among the people, but your leaders on Epstein's Island. That's a sharp response, I'm telling you. And that is the Iranian, of course, president, judiciary, foreign minister, all of them were in the streets. I'm liking a lot of the responses that are coming from the Iranian leaders lately. But the best one by far was from the foreign minister of Iran when he was asked, are you afraid of boots on ground? And he said calmly, we are waiting. We are waiting. Have you seen the NTSB report? They are now saying that the two KC-135 planes collided in midair. That's an official narrative. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, one of the best responses that came to this came from the spokesperson of the Khatam al-Anbiya HQ, who who told them, he said this. He said, the number of your technical failures, mild traumatic brain injuries, and friendly fire incidents has been increasing more than ever for a while now. You're having so many accidents lately. Oh, this falling, that falling, that. And then, maybe we'll have more reports or confirmations of death afterwards. Andrew and IG to me, thank you so much, and happy Ramadan as well. And Andrew as well, thank you. He said, use the terminology that Netanyahu is an atheist, but just as the Israel flag is a star and rampant and from the tabernacle of Moloch, so wouldn't you say that they worship demonic entities and that is their religion? Netanyahu being an atheist is a Netanyahu confirmation that he said in private. He confessed it to one of his friends at the time who actually revealed it. Or he said he actually doesn't believe in God in private. He said that according to a person who was close to him. Now, of course, you have all of this Jewish state thing and the Zionist connection to it. And the Star of Rampan, as you correctly said. And wouldn't you say that they worship demonic entities and that is their religion? To some of them, that may just be the case. Some of them might tell you, I'm an observing Jew and I'm a Zionist too. And there's no denying that too, by the way. That they fully believe in Judaism and Zionism and Judaism combined together. However, there's a lot to it with this Satanism. And again, whether it's populated or not, whether it's like popular or public knowledge is a separate story. Because their actions on the ground at the end of the day, they are what actually interprets who they are and what they do. You can't tell me that normal people do these things and they're like normal people. And there are Satans in human form at the end of the day. And Cam, thank you so much. Cam's email. Americans don't even like America, Iran will win. I think the sentiment amongst Americans is very clear now, to be honest with you. Everyone is, a lot of people are on Iran's side. That's why people need to be aware and prepare for potentially a false flag attack. As in, they're dead serious about it, these people. Especially if Netanyahu actually wants to push the United States to have boots on ground. And they would want something very big, by the way, mind you, so that they're going to have a lot of casualties. Ahmad Mahmoud, did you see the signed missiles from Iran for the victims of the Epstein Island? Yes. I shared them in the previous video. It's funny how, by the way, many people don't like it's not something that actually is spoken about much more. The fact that you have a blackmailed president here. Do you know what I mean? It's insane. Joe Mama, during the US invasion of Iraq, Ba'ath Party communication guy was known as Baghdad Bob. That is who Pete Hegseth briefings remind me of. Oh, Pete Hegseth is on a different level, dude. It's like he's on something. You know, always on this act and frowning, you know. It's as if he wants to slap the reporters in front of him. But again, Pete Hegseth, he's a psychopath. I mean, psychopath with psychopathic beliefs as well. Abdul Haq, BBC saying ground troops being sent. Is it true? To be honest with you, I probably haven't watched or heard anything from the BBC in years now. I mean, I don't even look at the BBC. I can't even look at it. My goodness. But I mean, when you said BBC and when the last word is true, I mean, that on its own is... They said they might send some, but there is no confirmation that there are boots on ground on the way, you know. I'm not sure if the BBC, by the way, mentioned it as like a potential that would happen, because, you know, there are talks about it. But from what we were hearing, by the way, it's very unlikely. They'll be committing suicide. Oh, listen, this is what he had to say now. Listen to this. Okay, what is Mr. Epstein president is talking about? Moments ago, at my direction, the United States Central Command executed one of the most powerful bombing raids in the history of the Middle East and totally obliterated every military target in Iran's crown jewel, Kharg Island. Our weapons are the most powerful and sophisticated the world has ever known, but for reasons of decency, I've chosen not to wipe out the oil infrastructure on the island. However, should Iran or anyone else do anything to interfere with the free and safe passage of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, I will immediately reconsider this decision. During my first term and currently, I rebuilt a military into the most lethal, powerful, and effective force by far anywhere in the world. Iran has no ability to defend anything we want to attack. There is nothing they can do about it. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, nor will it have the ability to threaten the United States of America. The Middle East, or for that matter, the world, Iran's military, and others involved with this terrorist regime, it will be wise to lay down your arms and save what's left of the country, which isn't much. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald Trump. Okay. Why didn't he attack the oil in Kharg? He doesn't want to get the oil hit in the region. He's trying desperately to convince people that, you know, they're achieving something. And it's funny that he's saying that he's targeting that place because the Iranian attacks, Kharg Island is indeed strategic, by the way. But the Iranian attacks against any sort of ship coming through the Strait of Hormuz can be done from anywhere in Iran. Que Dios, thank you. If you all gather and also invite your ancestors from hell, you will not be able to stop the Iranian nation. President Mahmoud 2007. True. I think that that statement is very true. The Arabs begged him not to. The Arabs didn't want any of this. It was from Harry. The Arab countries, they did not want any of this to happen whatsoever. They weren't interested in this, and even though some of them have their differences with Iran, they view an Israeli puppet being planted there as a strategic problem, because then they would have Israel in the east and Israel in the west. And they would be in a very, very difficult position. And many of them were very clear about it, by the way. But again, you know, Trump, it's not as if he asked anyone. It was just asked by Netanyahu. Okay, the IRGC, after the statement from Trump, said that the Iranian Navy said that the attacks, that's just coming in, the attacks by the Navy affiliated with the IRGC will continue until the complete dismantling of American terrorists' bases in the region. So, yeah, it's not looking like anything is ending now. An Iranian affiliated account, not sure if this is official or anything, by the way, published this, a message to the settlements to clear the area of Ramat Gan that is highlighted in red immediately and go down south through road number 4 only. Your government is lying to you. The war hasn't started yet. Maybe that's why Netanyahu was nervous yesterday, wasn't he? In the meantime, the Lebanese resistance is saying that they're conducting battles against the occupation forces near Al-Khiyam area in Lebanon. And they're continuing their confrontations. And Lebanon, by the way, is a place where it's very problematic for Israel too. Because Netanyahu promised everyone that it was all done, we're done with it, and now he's facing all of this resistance coming from the Lebanese resistance and attacks on so many parts of Israel without any adequate response. Okay, guys, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be with you with more videos and live streams in the coming days too. Thank you for everyone who sent supers and participated in the chat. Enjoy the rest of your evening, night, or day, depending on where you are. Stay blessed. Take care, guys. And I will see you soon in the next video. Peace for now. Salam, guys.
Right now, misinformation spreads faster than facts, especially on the most sensitive global stories. NVP uses uncensored AI analysis to verify the most controversial topics and separate signal from propaganda in real time. Instead of guessing who to trust, you can see structured verification and analysis behind every major issue.